Hey, should be going live.
Rock and roll. I'm just checking our streams. Come on, just yet. Here we go. We got it in the Facebook. Welcome everybody to today's daily Q&A. Here we go. We got it in the Facebook. Welcome everybody. My God, the sound sounds terrible on this microphone, doesn't it?
It's not that bad. At
Yuck.
least you know it's working.
Sorry, tribe. I'm in the middle of setting up a brand new computer. Richie's he doesn't realize this, but he's going to come over to my house today and help me do it so that we get it done. I've had to revert back to very old tech today on my laptop to run the stream. Just going to quickly confirm we're up on YouTube. In case we haven't met, my name is Yanni Burmeister, and to my left, your right, is Richard the Rig, aka Richie Lellies, our head coach, UMS coach, and we are Unity Gym in the Unified Movement System. We turn driven people into athletes. Rad, our other partner, is currently moving house to the North Coast. Beautiful beach suburb up there. And Will is actually on a one-on-one coaching call, which is what our members get in the UMS online coaching, the different programs we do. And they can always book a one-on-one coaching call just to, to chat about whatever they want, really, quite frankly. He's talking about the nutrition program with one of our members at the moment. I just got a couple of messages come through that I had to answer. So yeah, and today we're talking about a very, very important topic. But before we get stuck into that, I want to welcome Richie, and I want to ask you guys a favor: smash that like button if you are on YouTube. And I can see we've got a few people watching live. So let us know who you are and where you're tuning in from in the comments, and we'll send you some love back. How are you, Richie?
I'm good, Yanni. I'm super hot today. If you're here in Sydney with me, it has been a scorcher for the past couple days now. I'm down to a singlet. It's got my fan full blast, and don't have an air conditioner here in Sydney, so in our apartment anyway. So I'm really struggling, but should be fine. Hopefully my computer doesn't overheat.
2 more days. We've got 2 more days of it, and then it swings cold and rainy. So enjoy it while it lasts. I got a good idea based on Vinny's. Vinny Brown has just jumped in and commented. One of our legends in the Movement Mastermind Facebook group. He said, "Worst lower back exercise: shoveling out from a blizzard like I had to do yesterday. Fortunately, no damage done." I want to know in the comments what you think the worst lower back exercise is. We're going to spark a little bit of debate and conversation here. Now, this entire show, this entire Q&A comes off the back of a comment we've had recently by one of our legends on YouTube, part of our YouTube channel tribe, Verum. And it's in relation to a recent exercise tutorial we posted, how to do the kettlebell lateral flexion. And he said this can be a bad compression on lower back. There are better ways. Sorry. And we've responded saying there is absolutely no need to be sorry. But what you've said isn't really accurate, and we're going to dive into that. And this is this poses whenever we see a comment or a question like this, I'm not throwing mud at Verum at all, because in some ways he's right, but in other ways he's wrong, and it creates a really, really big problem in our industry. I can't seem to figure out how to center myself in this camera, so I do apologize about that. There we go. That's better. I'm using a very different setup here that I'm used to. And this actually, before I speak specifically about this, I want to share a personal story I had, which is very much related to this topic. When I was 8 years old, I fell off a horse. I used to live in the country. I grew up in the country on a farm, and I used to ride horses. And I was actually riding my horse home from school. Yes, we used to ride horses to school and leave them in a paddock. There's only 25 kids at the school. And I was riding my horse. I was very young, and my mum used to actually come and sort of pick us up from school and walk alongside us and whatever. And my brother was there, my sister was there, and we the horse that I won't go into details as to why it bolted, but the horse bolted on me and I wasn't able to rein it in, and I eventually fell off. I got caught in the stirrups. I got dragged for a little bit of time, bouncing along a gravel road, and then eventually fell off. And what it did was it created a series of compression fractures in my lower back. Now, that caused a lot of problems growing up. I had a compromised spine. I had some bad advice from practitioners who tried to help out. And I was told that I should never do any heavy lifting. Heavy lifting was out because I had a compromised spine. And when I became a personal trainer, it was actually a blessing in disguise because it was the reason I became a personal trainer. I worked with many physiotherapists, many chiropractors, and eventually what helped me the most was exercise. And I worked with a friend of mine who we now have on our podcast quite a few times, and learned some exercises that really had a positive impact. And that put me down the rabbit hole of exercise as therapy. And then I was so inspired, I became a personal trainer and went on to become a bit of a back specialist myself. Now, the funny thing is, all through my teens and 20s, I was afraid of big lifts like deadlifts and squats because I was told by the physio that I worked with when I was very young and my chiropractor that they were absolutely off the cards. I should never, ever do them or try them. And it's funny because I suffered really bad back problems right through that period of time. It didn't take much at all to trigger a really nasty spasm in my back. Picking up a school bag, bending over and picking something up used to do it. I used to just all the time. It was probably once a month I'd end up laid up on my back for 3 or 4 days with a really nasty spasm, taking pain pills, which caused a myriad of different other side effects. And most prolifically, it affected my mental health because I was very fragile. And at the time, I was trying to get into competitive boxing. So it wasn't until I started hanging out with a friend of mine who was getting into powerlifting, and I went and started studying under the late Charles Poliquin, that I was encouraged to challenge the status quo, the practitioner status quo, and actually start deadlifting. And that was my breakthrough. Surprisingly, the thing that I was steered clear of for over a decade, became the thing that gave me the biggest breakthrough. And I've never looked back. I seldom suffer back problems anymore. And my two favorite exercises are the squat and the deadlift. And it annoyed me a lot because I would have, I think, avoided a decade of really frustrating back spasms if I had have been led into and guided better around weightlifting. And to be more specific, the breakthrough came from a deficit snatch grip deadlift, which is the hardest deadlift to do and puts the most stress on the lower back. What was the key ingredient was the concept of load management. So rather than, when you see people deadlifting and squatting and they always seem to try to lift the heaviest weight possible, it was more about lifting a very light load in the beginning and just building confidence in the body. And that helped me break through my injury identity that I'd formed for myself, which was deeply rooted in my psychology, that I had a frail spine and that I couldn't lift heavy weight. And this seems to be the thesis behind Veram's comment. And we get many other comments like this when we post exercise tutorials. A classic is the J curl or Jefferson curl. And even, and this is the thing, and this will bring my rant to an end. The exercise, it's not the exercise that hurt you, it's how you got there. You could look at any exercise as being dangerous, and where would that get us? Of course, it's not going to get us anywhere except frailty and weakness. And so it's very important that we stop looking at an individual exercise and thinking, hey, that's really bad for the spine, because it's simply not. What's bad for the spine is piss poor load management. By that, I mean lifting a load that breaches your load capacity. And your load capacity is governed by your exercise history or your injury history, what you've done in the past. If you are not used to exercise, then doing a really heavy deadlift, of course, is going to be dangerous. But I would challenge the notion that deadlifts themselves are dangerous, because they're simply not. In fact, they're incredibly useful and very, very good for you if used at the right time under the right conditions. Richard, what do you think?
Man, spot on. I think it's very common for people, like especially around deadlifts, to like if they haven't really practiced deadlifts or if they haven't done them in a while, they have this sort of notion like I should be able to lift that. You know, that looks within my ability, and then they go on ahead and lift it, and then they suffer a back spasm or back soreness and go, nah, deadlifts isn't for me. It's just the wrong exercise. Every time I do it, I just get hurt. I should be able to lift 40 kilos off the ground. It's the exercise. It's not, it's just people's misunderstanding of how unconditioned they are to a movement, or how poorly they do it. It's technique, it's load management, it's a lot of things, but it's often not the exercise that hurts them. It's the other variables. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that's right. And Lisa Ownby's come up with a cracker here on our YouTube channel. Shout out to you, Lisa. She has said, I do not like the Russian ball ab twists for my lower back, which is where you sit in a half a sit-up position, and you rotate from side to side with a weight. Usually it's a medicine ball or a dead ball or something like that. And there are a few exercises that you wouldn't consider super complex, like compared to a deadlift or a squat, where you've got multi-joint movement, and a lot of muscle tissue and muscle motor unit sequencing needing to occur to get the movement right, get the technique right. A Russian twist is not one of them, but it's one that really, really, really can aggravate a compromised or unconditioned spine.
Yeah.
Twisting under load is one of those things that's highly debated in the fitness industry. Proponents of a neutral spine, like Dr. Stuart McGill, will say that it's absolutely terrible to do. And I tend to agree that twisting under load is not that good. Anti-rotation, I really like, meaning where you have a load pulling against you and you're resisting against that rotation. I really, really like that. And certain types of rotational load is okay, but not doing it really, really heavy. And you also really have to be conditioned for it, I'd say. So what Lisa's saying there, yeah, if you're not super strong and you're not conditioned to it, you haven't really worked up to it carefully, then absolutely. It's the same with the Jefferson curl. For many people who have even a remotely compromised spine, even doing it with body weight may be enough to trigger a spasm. Anything that your brain doesn't feel is going to be okay for you, the way it will slow you down or prevent you from doing something that is perceived as being dangerous by the brain. Remember, all pain is a symptom of the brain. Okay, you don't have pain receptors triggered down in that spot. It's your brain going, whoa, hang on a minute, this doesn't feel right. There's something here that I think could go wrong. So it triggers a spasm, and then you experience that as a pain symptom in that area of the body. And if your brain isn't comfortable with what you're doing, if you haven't progressively overloaded it to a stage that's suited to what you're trying to attempt, then you're going to experience some form of muscle spasm. Or worse, if you push it well beyond and breach your load capacity really badly, you could even experience a muscle tear, or a connective tissue, ligament or tendon tear. And of course, if you jump off something or hit yourself with something or run into something super hard, you could even experience a bone fracture. But each of these injuries are just an extreme version of you breaching your load capacity. And what we do when we exercise, when we strength train, is we progressively overload the body to enhance or raise your load capacity so that you can endure more and get injured less. Does that make sense?
Yep, 100%. And like I do like what was the gentleman's name again, Yanni? Wrote the comment.
I'll jump in. Verum, Verim.
So I do like what he said. There are better ways of doing it, and he's right. There probably are better ways of training a muscle group, a part of the body. But just because there are better ways doesn't mean you should not try that exercise, if that makes sense. Like just because there are better ways than to train the lateral core doesn't mean you shouldn't try lateral flexion, because lateral flexion also has its own benefits. Again, it comes down to that load that you use. If you use the appropriate load, you can unlock a lot of benefits from doing that exercise. And
That's right.
with every exercise, you do have to weigh up risk versus reward. I think like there will be limitations with some people at some ranges. So some exercises are probably not as suited to an individual as other exercises. So in essence, he's sort of right. There are better ways of doing things, but doesn't mean you should like rule out all exercises that are considered bad. And I think that's a big thing that's hit the industry, the fitness industry, is you shouldn't do this. This is bad for you. It's very
Yeah.
binary. Um, Good, bad, yes, no. Will hurt you, won't hurt you. There's a lot of in between with this sort of stuff, like there is for most things. Yanni's camera's just turned off. Are you still there, buddy?
Oh, I am. Yeah,
Yep.
sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just trying to see if
Cool.
I could zoom in a little bit more in the setup, but it's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, listen,
Yeah.
we
So
have to jump off and jump into our 6 week peak performance to give them their daily coaching. We're running a couple of minutes late. Great discussion. We might continue this one tomorrow because it is so important that we get across to you the importance of load management. As our physios at ADPT Physio used to say at Unity Gym, it's not the exercise that hurt you, it's how you got there. And I think that's a really, really great way of looking at it.
all right, guys. Catch you later.
We'll see you tomorrow.